Good morning, guys. Sorry, my voice is very raspy this morning. Today, I'm going to talk about interviewing 101. So, I just started a part-time job, and I had to go in and interview. And I feel like a lot of us recently, and like if you're a millennial, you are most likely interviewing for something, whether it be a part-time job, maybe it's a babysitting job. Chances are you're going to have to interview for something. So I wanted to go over a couple tips I had for interviewing, because whether you're interviewing for a job now or going to be interviewing for a job later, these are tips that might help you. So the first thing I want to say is ask questions. When you're at a job or at talking to a future employer possibly, the most important thing you can do is ask them questions. At the end of the interview, they'll always say, or not always, but most likely they will say, so do you have any questions? And I know personally, I almost never have questions, which isn't necessarily good. The company wants you to ask them questions, wants you to know about the company and ask about like what the company's like, work-life balance, benefits, things like that. So even if you don't necessarily have any questions, I would try to at least think of one thing. One question I always ask if I don't have a question but know I need to ask one is what is the work-life balance like? So do people enjoy their time at the job? Do people have time after work to do other things? And that's important regardless, even if you don't really care. At least you know what it's like, and it shows that you have a question prepared for them. Speaking of that and being, sorry, I'm outside. Speaking of that and being prepared to ask a question, study the company beforehand. So say you are interviewing at Target, for example, which is a Minneapolis-based company. I'm in Minneapolis. Study Target beforehand. You can go on their website. They will have like about us information, company information, size of corporate office, things like that. And most likely, most businesses you're going to interview with have some kind of information you can look at. So before your interview, study up on the company so you know what questions to ask. So if they ask you a question, you can relate it back to them because you know about the company. So going off of that and studying the company is relate your answers for an interview back to the company. So say again that you are interviewing for Target and the interviewer asks you, what's your biggest strength? Which is such an interview question. You could say, my biggest strength is team building. An example of this was when I was at Target shopping or something. Obviously, that's not a great answer, but if you relate back to the company, it will show them that you know about the company, that you are ready for the company, and things like that. Obviously, team building and shopping at Target isn't a good example, but you guys know what I mean. Another thing I would say is bring your resume. So this sounds like a little thing, but if you're interviewing, chances are you've emailed the company your resume beforehand, and sometimes they'll say, don't bring your resume, you don't need it. But showing up with your resume, even a couple copies printed out in your backpack, your purse, or your briefcase, even if they don't need it, it shows that you're prepared for it. So when I went in to interview for my part-time job, they said, you don't need a copy of your resume, we have one. I brought a copy anyways, a couple copies in my purse, because I knew if they asked for some reason, I would look prepared to have it. And it shows that I do care about the job, because yeah, they say you don't need one, but if you have one, which it's like going the extra mile of things you don't need. Okay, last tip, which is my favorite. That's why I save it for the last one. Dress for the job you want. So when I was becoming a personal trainer, this was a complicated thing for me because I didn't understand. It was just for the job you want, and I was a personal trainer, so I would wear like nice leggings and a a nice sweatshirt or a nice zip up, and I would always say, like, I don't feel like I'm dressed right. But that's what people would always say to me, is dress for the job you want. That's what you want. So again, say you are interviewing at Target for a fashion lead. I don't know what their positions are, but say you're interviewing for a fashion lead. Dress fashionable, dress for the job you want. Whether you're doing something at Target, whether you're being a personal trainer like me and need to dress more casually, even though you might not feel as dressed up, I suppose, it's still dressing for what you're interviewing for and makes it look like you are being more serious for the job because you're dressing for what your future might be. That's my favorite tip. So I'm sure you guys will have interviews at some point, whether it be again for a job, for babysitting. If you're interviewing for applying for grad school, need to interview something, at least just come prepared, ask questions, study the company or study the school beforehand, and dress for the job you want. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. I am outside today and it's very nice. I feel like every time I come on here, it's cold, so it's nice out, which is awesome. Hope you guys have a great Sunday. If you have any interviewing tips you want to share below, feel free to comment them. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.